All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Sip and Talk. I'm your host, Miss Londa. I have my co-host joining me this evening. We have Data, we have Miss Sneed, we have
Hello, hello.
Montoya, and we have our guest joining us, Crystal. Welcome to the panel, Crystal. It's a pleasure to have you joining us this evening. How are you?
Oh, well, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And how's your day going?
It's going great. I have no complaints, but
All
thank you so
right. All right. So our topic this evening is how it affects women growing up without a father in the home. All right. So I grew up without a father in the home. I'm not really sure what the effects was. It's kind of like I didn't really think about it. So I don't know if I just kind of blocked it out, or if it was just the fact of just not being able to miss something that you didn't have. So I'm not really sure how to feel about that. So does anybody else have anything they would like to say?
Well, I wasn't raised in a home with a father, but I was with my father every chance we could. It was like he had a. Oh, okay, good.
It was like, what did you say?
Okay, I said, yeah. I wasn't living with my father until I got a little bit older. So as a young girl, it was kind of difficult because I had to wait to see my dad come and visit me and drive me around in his taxi cabs and stuff. And as I got older, it kind of like disappeared. But then we reconnected with each other. So, I have a little good experience with my father. So I have good experience. Like when I was in need, he took me off the streets. He was a drug addict, whatever, but he did what he had to do for his daughter. He made sure I was safe. He put a roof over my head. We ate. If I didn't have the money to get it, we went to the churches to get the clothes and stuff and the food. And he just did what he had to do for daddy's little girl. So that's what I remember about my dad. And I was like, my daughter, well, I didn't even have a daughter then. So I was probably like 15, 16. I was young.
And so I think too also because my dad was in the service and that was back in the 70s. So the service that he was in, it was the Vietnam War. So I think that played a big part in me not having ill feelings towards him, not really being in my life because when he got out, he suffers from PTSD. So I did have one last memory because I was born in Gary, Indiana. I lived with my grandma for a short time. So I do remember that he did come to the house when I was younger to visit. So I do have that one last memory of him visiting me. So I didn't really, I just didn't really hold it against him. But I also didn't understand why when I tried to find him, no one could, seem to locate him. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, I grew up without my father. I never had my father, honestly. I didn't meet my father until I was like 17 years old. And when I did meet him, the first thing I did, I asked him was for some money. Um, Probably what a normal teenager or a young adult would do, but that's what I did. Um, I didn't really see no resemblance. I really didn't see it. So later on down the line, my grandfather had passed away, and then another man came and claimed he was my father, and I was like, "What? You're not my dad. The man that's on my birth certificate is my dad." So I can't honestly say that it affected me in a bad way because it really didn't. The only thing I can say is that my mother has passed away, and now I'm stuck. Like, who's my dad? Who's my dad? But I'm grown now, and it's really like I'm the man that introduce himself as my daddy, that's my daddy, and I just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's interesting because my dad was kind of like in the home, but not really in the home. And I think I missed out on those mother daughter talks, like, especially when it came to like relationships. because I recently realized that I didn't have that guidance on how to choose the appropriate man for me in my life, and that kind of stuff. So um and my dad is still living too, so I'm like trying to be careful of how I word what I say, because I don't want to be offended. I don't want to offend him, because I still want to honor him, but at the same time I feel like I didn't get all that I seen my friends getting from their fathers. So
there was some things that I feel like I lack. Like sometimes I would stop and think, what does he look like now? Does he have any other kids? What would it be to just have a conversation with him? What would it be like? What would it be like for him to meet? Because I have 4 children, and he never got the chance to meet any of them, or the grandkids. So I kind of wonder how it would be, to have shared those type of moments with him. But I feel like I just kind of just pushed it out, you know.
Well,
For me,
go ahead. I'm sorry, sweetie. Go ahead.
oh, no worries. For me, my father was in the house physically, but he wasn't in the house like present. So I think that's a different dynamic when you talk about like some people, like I have another sibling who he just wasn't living with them at all. And she was like, that's really, you should be lucky that he was with you guys. But if it's not a beneficial relationship, then sometimes you kind of wish that that wasn't the case, so he was there physically, but emotionally and things like that, I just think that he couldn't show up just for different reasons. I'm sure that he's still trying to figure that out, but so I come from the perspective of he was there physically, but not able to really be there emotionally, sometimes financially, even if he was in a house. So to answer the question, how that affected, I guess you can say it seems weird when people look from the outside looking in, thinking that your dad it seems like a functional household, right? It seems like if you have the mother-father dynamic, it seems like, oh, okay, then you should be able to have this and that. And much like it's funny, I was talking to some of my siblings, I was like, man, some of them single moms, because I feel like my mom was a single mom in a different way. I'm like, some of them single moms, I'm like, them kids get everything. I mean, they got the new Jordans, they got the new everything. And I feel like we were kind of in that people kind of try to understand the dynamic, but they really can't understand it because it looks like one thing and it's really not.
Yeah.
The different effects is that you really don't know what to look for because that's inconsistent already, right? It's like it seems one way, but it's really another way. So as growing up, you kind of feel like, okay, so what does that look like if I choose to get married or if I choose to have children? Like, what's right? Is it okay if the dad is physically there, but not really there in other ways? So like, growing up as a young woman, we're all, I had to think, we're all minorities at least, growing up, just having certain things already counted against us, just trying to finding your way, figuring things out, what's good, like as a woman, like what not only what you should look for, but what you should be comfortable with, what you should accept, not accept, what you should expect, not expect. What are your boundaries? I mean, is this guy super nice, or is just something that you thought that you were missing out on? Is this guy super aggressive, or is he controlling, or if he's just really protecting you? If you really haven't had those things, it's kind of hard to discern the healthy way of kind of being in different levels of relationships, not even just romantically, but friendships, etc. Like, I think we have male friendships where, it's like these not young kids. I say that, but like, it's like some of the younger people would say like, that's my best friend. And it'll be a guy. And I'm like, I don't know if I could be like a best, because if you haven't had that dynamic, it can kind of teeter totter if someone is like really nice, really kind to you. I'm like, I don't want you to be my best friend. I want you to be like my best friend. So I think just growing up, having those different, not even knowing what it really looks like, you can have the challenges of what to expect and what, as a young woman, what you should accept and not accept.
Would you say that what you were lacking? Was it communication?
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you don't grow up in a functional household anyway, communication is the biggest thing, because just now in 2021, we're looking at like, is therapy an okay thing? This is 2021, and therapy has been around for a long time. And you know, culturally kind of growing up, it wasn't looked at as something that, it was like don't tell your business kind of thing. When really it's like I should really be talking to somebody about not my household business, but just my business, like how I feel. So I think that communication amongst our men, period, whether it's a Black man or whatever, you know, however your dad is, hasn't really been taught well anyway. So looking at that, it's hard. I think it's harder from the beginning, even whether you have a functional household or a dysfunctional household. Communication is something that we need to work on, period.
Miss Sneed, you had something you were trying to say?
Yeah. Well, like, I don't know where it took me one, because when I lost my dad, I went somewhere else. The way I lost him, and it's like I lost my best friend. But um, taking the things that he's taught me, I've learned them, and I just use the knowledge and stuff that he gives me and try to be strong out here in this crazy world. And the most I love about my dad is teaching me how to play dominoes. And dominoes was so fun to me because we was counting that money. That's how he taught me, get your money, baby, get your money. So I love playing dominoes, and I thank him for teaching me how to count my money and get my money. And you know, like I said, he was in his own little world or whatever, but he made sure he can do what he can do for me. So um I can't answer a lot of these questions because I'm one of them girls where I had my dad, but I didn't have him, but I had him, and I miss him and I cherish him, and I just wish I had more time with him, you know. So yeah.
Um, Data, I wanted to add, in not having your father there like you wanted to have him there, do you think that it could have changed? You know, I wonder the same thing about myself, if things would have been different for me.
Well, I really can't, I don't know, because I never really thought about it like that. Once I met him, I didn't let it hinder me, because at the end of the day, when we was kids, we had our grandma. So it was like that's all we really knew was our granny. We had our mama, but we really had our granny. Our mama came and stopped by. Our daddy, each of us had different daddies. So, the one that met their daddy was our little sister. So it's like us not having a father. I didn't let it affect me at all. So I really didn't question it. Now, don't get me wrong, I did look at my friends once upon a time and seeing how they had both of their parents. And I always wondered what it would have been like if I would have had both of my parents. But then I was like, well, it's a fairy tale, this is reality. So this is what I'm stuck with, and I gotta live with it. If I could change it, I could. But hey, as long as I'm strong and who I am now. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say it's starting to become a little easier as well, because I hear you guys feel like somebody has something needs to be muted because it's an echo. A lot of my friends, I didn't see them with the father in the home too, so that could have also made it easier on me as well.
it made it easy for me, because I was like, well, when my daddy finally came back into my life, he was like, well, I was talking to older men, and he was like, well, why you talking to these old men? His friends would try to holler at me. He was like, why you trying to talk to these old men? You talking to these old men because I wasn't in your life. I get it. I get it now. I get it. I understand. That's why you're going to these old men.
Wow. I have a question. So something that Crystal said stuck out to me. When she mentioned about in her youth, like seeing like a single mom with the kids dressed nice, with designer clothes and things like that. And so it made me think about it. Is it that when there's just one parent in the home, just a single mom, is it that we don't have like the best decision making skills and certain management skills when it comes to like financing and making decisions that make sense, as opposed to if there's two parents in the home, you know, there will be better decisions made. Like, well, they don't always need to be, you know, dressed in designer, or you know what I'm saying? Do that make sense what I'm asking?
Well,
Like,
what?
Yeah.
It makes sense, but I'm gonna say something because I grew up in thrift store and Payless. So, I know what it's like to come from the bottom and not have clothes come out the mall. The only pair of name brand we had was Guess. We wore Airs, we wore Shacks. I wore to school stockings, a church coat, a uniform dress with a turtleneck, some stockings, and some rubber ducky boots. So, this is 2022. My son is 2. I'm not going to make my son suffer the way I did growing up as a child. So, it's okay for him to have a little pair of Nikes, a little pair of Jordans, a couple of, Nike jeans, it ain't much. It ain't nothing. I work hard. I pay my bills. I make sure my house is good. I make sure we got a roof over our head. So it's all right for him to get a couple of Jordans. Now, I ain't finna go out buying $4,000-$5,000 worth of shoes and, have his whole room closet full of shoes that he probably ain't gonna wear. And the next kid not gonna go all outrageous like that. That's just doing too much. That means my priorities ain't in order if I'm going out doing all of that. But if I can afford to do that for him, yes, I can. Because 9 times out of 10, he get name brand stuff, and I don't get really much of nothing. I probably give me a couple of pairs of jeans, give me some Chucks or something. If it's a nice little pair of Nikes, but I make sure he's straight. But I make sure the bills is good. My man makes sure the bills is good. It's really him that gets the name brand stuff, which is all right. He's little. But when he get older, he gonna be paying it back.
Oh, was that the?
So I'm kind of so
Look at trying to ask Montoya.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
So was that the answer you were kind of looking for, or what exactly were you going with the question?
Well, I was kind of thinking about how in some communities the younger generations are so like stuck on material things, and they would much rather spend all their money on material things. And it's a lot of like single, and I'm talking about like single family homes, communities that are like infested with mostly single mothers. And like sometimes they will spend, let's just say a new pair of Jordans coming out, they will go and stand in line and spend their last $500, $300 just so their kid will have those shoes. And I guess I'm asking, like, if there was 2 parents in the home, would the priorities be different? Is it possible that the priorities would be different?
I'm sorry. Who that was? Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I'm a 2-parent in the home, and I get everything you saying. I be the one. Okay, wait. Yeah, I be the one. Be like, my kids got to get this. They got to have this, that. And he'd be like, you know what, baby, as long as these kids got this, they gonna be all right. You just be doing too much. Then the mama, no, I ain't, because I got to make sure they got this and this and that. I don't care about all that. My kids need to have this stuff. He'd be like, come on now, for real. They gonna get this stuff. They ain't gonna cherish this stuff. They ain't gonna wear this stuff. They gonna throw it to the side. Then your money gone. Then how you looking? So yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
It's a
exactly. And that's why I asked that question, because I'm a single mom and I do it. You know what I'm saying? I will spend my last so that my son, all 3 of my boys, can have the
Yeah.
best of the best. And I wonder, like, if I had a husband in the home, if you know what I'm saying, if I had a spouse in the home, would these decisions be coming out like that? So I don't want to generalize, certain communities. I do it too.
Mhm.
So
Uh,
yeah.
so I have both perspectives because I was a single mom before I was married. So I what I realized is that me wanting to buy all those things came from, I think, a Data. I'm sorry, what's your name? Data with the T. Which Data? Okay,
It's data.
Data. She said something so powerful that I think that kind of resonates with just the common ground. Like, our deficit, we really want to make sure that our children don't suffer with our own deficit. So whatever that deficit may be, it may be emotional, it may be financial, it may be materialistic things. So like when I became a single mom, I was like, oh yeah, he has to have, and he a boy too. I was like, he can't go looking all out and getting crazy. He gonna get teased and everything. And just after learning for a little while, it's not bad because I do think kids need quality things, right? Like sometimes they need to play shoes and then they also need some shoes that's going to make sure they take care of their feet. I get that, but that comes after a while, after balance, after understanding the heart behind what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like our heart is, we just want to make sure that our babies don't ever feel the same thing that we felt, whether it's any type of embarrassment. So it's crazy that you say that, Mrs. Sneak, because my husband is the one. He's like, when the next shoe coming out? This, and that. And so when we got married, it was when the next shoe, when I was and so we got married and we came together, we were like, we would rather, what would we really want in the end for our kids? Like, do we want them to have properties, or do we want, like, what's the balance? We still don't want them to go to school looking crazy, but what's the balance? And it's hard when you come from a household of deficit. It's not like it's always easy. Like, I'm sure, Montea, you'll be married at some point, but it won't be like, it's not like, it's not always easy conversations
No,
either.
it's not.
Somebody normally feels very strongly about something,
Yes, that's true.
and then
Yeah.
it's because you come from two different households, raised two different ways. You have different traumas, different reasons why you feel the way you feel. So I don't think you should feel bad for wanting really great things for your kids, but at the same
Yes.
time, it's like we unlearn the things that cause us to even feel like we had a deficit, right? So we have to kind of be like, okay, so what would I really want my children to have? Like, do I want my children to have an apartment building and like nice shoes? Maybe I won't get them the Jordans this time. I'll get them some real cute Nikes that don't nobody else have. And then I'll put the other $30 towards this apartment building. And then once you start teaching it to, I'm not sure if you have boys or girls, it really don't matter because both the babies need that. Once you start getting into that, you'll feel like, okay, so I'm doing both of those. Not to say that you're not, but I know as a single mom, that was not where I was at first. I was just like, whatever not makes my baby jealous, that's what I'm trying not to do. And then as I got older, I was like, but I really want them, when we talk about specific communities, I really want them to have not what other communities have, but even more than other communities have, because I want them to be able to be seen in their own way. I hope that answered your question. I wasn't,
Just to piggyback off of what all of you have said, but first I would like to welcome Odessa. Thank you for joining us. I just wanted to
Welcome,
say I
Odessa.
understand what all of you guys are saying, and I agree with you. I think it's okay, but I just think that value should be taught when, when we buy these name brand things for our kids, and teaching them to understand the value and appreciation of it, and that this is not something that it's not a must that you have to have it. I think that's very important to teach kids, because when you're just giving them and making them feel like everything they have to have the latest toy, they have to have the latest shoes, the latest pants or whatever, then they grow up and they feel like, and I think it's even more, this is just my personal opinion, better for girls, because when they want these things, they rely on a man to do these things. And then sometimes they end up with the wrong man. They might give them these things, but then there's consequences that comes with it. And then they end up staying in these relationships with these men because they feel like they have to have these things that they want.
That's
Yeah.
why I
Yeah,
teach
that's
my kids. Uh, I ain't gonna lie. I try to sugarcoat it, but my kids are spoiled to the T, y'all. I ain't gonna even lie. Chris, I'm with you. So you done brought me out with the husband. See, I was trying to make him good one, but we both got it bad with these kids. My time, I ain't gonna lie. My kid, I'm the type of mama, single, married or not. Like I said, I'm married now. But when we wasn't married, I was like this with my kids. The reason why I'm like this with my kids because of what I had growing up. I was the Payless, the Kmart, the good fella box wearing kid, and I refuse my kids to wear that stuff. You feel me? I refuse it. So I give my kids what I didn't have. And right now they all spoilers ever. But I bet you one thing, they can tell you the difference in the values of that spoiledness. It's not a want. It's not a what is it? It's not a need, it's a want thing. Can't get your phone. Sorry about that. So I try to teach them that. And now we to the point where because my kids, they got what do you buy a child? They got everything. You can't buy no more. Ain't nothing else you can buy. So now I'm teaching my kids. Now we on a different level, kids. This what we finna be on, family. We finna go out here and buy us some land, some timeshare, whoever share. I don't care. We finna invest our money in something different.
Gold and silver.
You know what I'm saying? So what I'm investing in my kids is memories. Memories is the number one key. You can buy them everything in the world, but without the memories, you ain't got nothing. You feel me? That's what I'm building now with my kids because I learned back then, like my mama say, I was buying my kids. And that's just what it is because every time you look up, you're giving them the fancy things. They want the fancy things. They got the little light boss man when they walk out the door. I know what you're saying because I do it with my kids. But now it's a switch around because now y'all know that part of life. Now let's get to the real part of life. We need some land or something out here because I ain't gonna be here forever. Your daddy ain't gonna be here forever. I don't want y'all to depend on nobody. Here's the foundation of what we need to do now because all this materialistic stuff, it come and go. When you go, it go. It ain't going with you. So let's hold something that we can put value in and see where our money and stuff is going. So now me and my husband is purchasing not a timeshare, but we purchased something like a timeshare for my kids. So now they know this. So now them keep asking me for B-bucks and this and this and that. They know they got that money for that timeshare. So yeah.
Yeah.
Not a timeshare, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's not a timeshare, but y'all know what I'm saying. I'm showing them different. I'm trying to show them like buying a house or something. Like our money is more value now, kids. We need things.
Assets.
Right, assets. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's let Odessa speak and then we'll let Dede get to the comments.
Okay, so I'll quickly just introduce myself. So my name again is Odessa. I'm in Huntington Beach, California, and I saw the topic. I was like, I have to jump on here because I have a son. I have 3 kids. My oldest son is 27 years old, and I've been a single mom, been married twice, but for most part of my life, I've been a single person. All my kids are spread out 10 years. Okay, so basically 27, 17, and 7. And the thing is with, being from Chicago, it's a very, materialistic environment where when I grew up, people, I wore Pro Wings until I was able to hustle. And I was one of those girls that figured out how to use her body to get what she needed to provide for herself and family. So I had the name brand shoes and the name brand clothes and all of that. But after, my life changed over the years and having my son, I decided I'm not going to raise him in the environment that I came out of. And what I learned is that most urban environments are environments where that's something that's pushed. That's where the self-esteem is built through what your clothes are, not your grades. So, for example, my daughter that's 17 now, she's not into material clothes. They wear Vans. My kids, they like, California, they wear Vans. You know what I'm saying? Vans, yeah, they do cost, but I don't really put a lot of money into clothes, more so education, so going to the school with the white kids, I never experienced, I didn't even live around white people growing up. I didn't even have a white teacher, you know. And so what's pushed with them, they don't care about how they dress. Like, I'm like, this is how they dress at the school. Their focus is I'm going to college. Their focus is I'm gonna work in my family business. And so even when I want to try to buy my daughter stuff, she really don't care. She's not focused on the clothes. So for her, she want to go to UCLA. So the thing is what I noticed with the type of schools from how I grew up in an urban environment, right? That, those things are pushed in African-American community. And like I heard, see the name, Montoya and also Miss Sneed and a couple other people agree that, and I apologize if I didn't say your name correctly, is, it's about assets. And so like for me, my business is OC branding, basically do websites, this and this and that. I worked for people for years. I wasn't able to buy my kids everything they wanted. Now with a business, I can buy stuff, but money going into the business, money is going into, sports, money is going into college. So it's a different mindset from when I grew up, and so again, my point is to bring it home to the next person can speak. It depends on the school environment. It depends on the peer pressure. What's in that environment? Now we moved to Long Beach. I'm quite sure my daughter would be wanting some Jordans. If we lived in LA, she would want Jordans. If we moved to Santa Monica, same thing. She don't care because Santa Monica students, they're not focused on the way you look. I still got that Chicago in me, where people want to dress a certain type of way. But in a nutshell, I agree with all of you ladies today, which is such an amazing topic, is we have to push something forward so that we can advance beyond what's the material.
And Lady Zenia's website and Flatchet Accessories, she did both my websites.
Okay.
Can you put your contact information in the chat?
Okay, absolutely.
So we got some comments.
Go ahead, Daddy.
I'm sorry,
We
Daddy.
got some comments from Miss Shanta. She said having a strong positive father figure in the household, in my opinion, goes beyond financial stability and household decision making. Those things are important, but you can have a two-parent household where the man provides financial stability and all those things and still not be a positive force in the home. I believe the emotional security of having a balanced, not perfect home is something that many of us overlook. Miss Shanae says, come on, apartment building. And then she said facts. And then Miss Shanta said again, two parents who know the value of being each other's helpmates for the betterment of the family. And Shanae said, yes, financial literacy at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got to teach them that, because if we don't, they wouldn't know. You got to teach them. Material list of things is not everything. That's what
I think it's important to teach them financial literacy while they're young, instead of especially the girls, because you don't want the young ladies to think it's okay to depend on a man for financial needs or material things. And I had to learn that as growing up as a child. That's what my granny taught me. My mom taught me something different, but my granny taught me to always be dependent on myself, to always have something up under my belt, whether it's education, being able to go out there and get a job, being very independent and not relying on myself. When on the other hand, my mom taught me to hustle, taught me that, laying down with a man don't get you nothing in life. Always get something if you doing something, those type of things. But in reality, when you're buying these kids, especially the girls, the baby girls with the handbags and, the little Birkins and stuff like that, I just think it's too much for her as a little baby, because, they don't know nothing about a Birkin bag. They don't know nothing about all that material stuff. You're forcing it on them. So, I think we just need to take more time into buying them things, but teaching them stuff where the money can go in the future.
I want to ask, am I the oldest on the panel? Because I hear a lot of y'all saying, okay, and I did grow up with the Payless and everything, but I don't really remember Nikes when I was, until I probably got to junior high is when I really started noticing name brand was a thing. I think the first name brand that came out, I was in junior high. I think it was BK's or something, British Knights or Troops or
I was
something.
gonna say Truce,
Oh, I
British
was in elementary school
Motto.
when
Yes, and
BKs
everything.
came
So
out.
them
We had
Payless, like
Motto.
back when I was growing up, white girls was an in thing. The white girl shoes, and then they started coming out with the colors, and I was on my mom like I need every color. So I don't know. It was just different for me. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm in Payless. It was not no big thing for me and my friends when we was coming up. So I don't know. I
That's
guess
true.
I mean, I loved my good fella boss. Don't get me wrong, girl. I loved them crispy pants.
I also think it's from the area because I'm from the DMV area where we have like we're always a melting pot. So we have like somebody who could be from California, somebody from Chicago, somebody from the South. Well, we belong to Mason-Dixon line too, but somebody from it's been such a melting pot that so many people brought so many different flavors. It was oh that's nice, this nice, this nice, and so DC already has its own original like thing. So for us, it wasn't necessarily like I can agree with you. I don't Nikes were something, but it was like Etonics and LSCs, like different things like that. And then more so the clothes, like when you had the cross colors and the gas and all that other stuff. Like shoes are one thing, but like the clothes were something else. Like in DC we had Parasucos and different things like that. So but you said something there, like I think we were speaking to women because we're all women, but since I'm me having a son, like teaching him financial literacy was really important too. Not so just because when he has a family, he can have that knowledge as well. Like, so he won't be dependent on a woman. Like it's one thing when a woman is dependent on a man, but it's something when a man is dependent on a woman, and teaching him how to not only manage his money, but like what's important, things like that. Like we from DMV, but he likes to wear Vans because he wasn't really, even when I wanted to buy him like stuff he was just I really don't like that. I'm just like my own person. So it helped me a whole lot. But also like just teaching that financial literacy to our young men so they can know like if they get with a woman who maybe not know that they won't take advantage of them. And they will like, come on, baby, like I can teach you this financial literacy as well. Like I think that we put so much emphasis on what we should do as like being like strong women, which I really think we do, but just teaching our sons how to treat women and how to be that person in a household, that a woman can really trust is just as important as teaching your daughter what and what not to depend on. And I think young men sometimes are kind of left out of the domestic side because it's looked at as kind of feminine. I'm like, no, you need to know about money too. Yeah. You need to know about to cook more than noodles too, because what if you marry somebody who can't cook? Or what if you marry somebody who, whatever. So I'm just saying I agree totally. Mm-hmm.
And that you're speaking on men. I just want to say what I notice in my family is all the women in my family are independent. But what I do notice, and I don't know if like maybe growing up without a father in the home, and if they did, maybe the father didn't teach certain things. But I noticed this in my family is that a majority of the men are not, they're dependent.
For sure. Most of our family is are women, and we're really strong women, like really like strong women. But when I had my son, I had to make sure that we didn't demasculate him because he was a young man. Like, because we're so strong, we can be really controlling sometimes. Like, no, I'll take care of it. I can do this. I can do that. I try, no one's perfect, but I really tried to, because I saw that in some family members, I really tried to make sure that he had that balance of you need to know how to be a young man and compassionate at the same time. Like, it's a really tough balance when you're raised around all women. Yeah, so I agree with you. Just seeing that made me be like, wait a minute. Once I had my son, I was like, oh, no, you're not going to be like little so-and-so or whatever. And not because they're bad people. It's just that sometimes, as we get down the generations, we start learning different things and being like, oh, let me check that. Oh, okay, I see that. Like, not necessarily that it was bad the way somebody did something, but like you check something and you kind of adjust it based on like, okay, I have more knowledge about this now, so let me try to mitigate some things. So I totally agree with you. Once I saw that, I was like, oh, no, not my little, no. He's going to know how to cook. He's going to know how to, hopefully, I mean, because you can teach a child anything, but just inputting the information and as soon as you get it, because sometimes growing up in these our families, we don't have the information when we first have kids.
That's right.
I didn't have nobody's financial literacy when I was trying to buy him all that stuff, or just making sure like flip. I don't know about anybody else, but like flipping a paycheck, trying to make sure that you keep this on, that on, this on, that on, and all while keeping sane all at one time. So we didn't understand. I didn't have balance and all these different things. So as we get older and we learn these different things, I think as soon as you learn it, instead of saying, dang, I feel bad about it, it's more so, hey, let me go to my child and let me correct it. Hey, this is how we were doing things at first, but now I have the responsibility to say, this is what we need to unlearn. And I'm willing to, let's unlearn it together and let's move forward with it together. Because I think in our community so often we're afraid, one, to apologize to our children about certain things. Like we're not always the greatest, we do our best, but that's not always the greatest for them. You know what I mean? So as we get older and we learn, not even get older, because sometimes even you're only in youth, but as we become more wise, we have to apologize to our children. Like, look, this is the way I kind of thought we supposed to doing it, but I think we need to adjust and shift. And I think this would be a little bit healthier. And then you said something about communicating with our children. Like, hey, look, like one time I had to sit my little son down. He was about 8. I said, look, today we are broke, but we will not be broke forever. Mommy would like to do this, and that, but in order for us to do that, this is what we're going to have to change. And he looked at me like, I didn't even know of course you don't know we broke. You get whatever you want to get. But I had to be realistic about what was really going on, not for only him, but for myself, so I can be held accountable. I already told him that, and I told him I was going to make an adjustment, so I can't go back on that. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, Odessa has her hand up.
Yeah, I was like, every time, the more Crystal, I want to speak to what Crystal just said, and the more you spoke, I'm like, well, I guess I should put my hands down, because she already spoke to some of the things that I was speaking to. But one of the things which I thought was really great is once we learn, then we can make it something new and teachable to the family. And one of the things I want to start out with is I apologize to my oldest son several times. Like, I wish I would have taught you how to be more organized, structured, this and that. I didn't get that as a kid. So when you don't get it as a kid and you don't grasp it naturally, some people naturally grasp how to be organized, how to clean, how to do certain things. And so I didn't necessarily get that as a kid. And so when it comes to financial literacy, definitely didn't get that, because it was never enough. And so now with intention, as soon as I learn something and as soon as I start to apply it, sometimes you have to apply it first before, I'm sorry, a kid is playing a game in the background. But, with intention, once I grasp it, sometimes I have to apply it first. So like, let's say, for example, if I'm organizing things differently in the house, and now that I'm excited about organizing, I got to watch myself for a while to see, am I going to be consistent? And so now when I learn new things, down even to the youngest son, it's things I learn every day. I didn't teach him this, but I can implement it to the youngest, because the oldest ones, they're pretty much out the door. My daughter's out the door. But even as she's a senior, and I'm using this year for the financial literacy, helping, made sure she had a bank account, a checking and savings account. She got her first job this year. And purposely, people like, oh, she started working later because I wanted her to focus on her academics. So basically with intention, hey, when you put that money in your account, it's easy to go on Amazon and purchase something. It's easy to go buy this and buy that. It's easy to keep up with the Joneses, or go to the mall. That's their big thing, going to the mall. Okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to eat up your money, or are you going to save your money and invest it in something different? So really doing with intention, hey, I just learned something. I'm starting to implement this stuff in a midlife. At 46 years old, it's things I should have learned 25 or more years earlier. I'm just learning it. But when I do tell the kids, I don't tell them from a standpoint like, you should be doing this. Sometimes we learn something and then we force it upon them. And we have to be mindful not to force it upon them, but to say, hey, you know what? I'm learning this just like you. And when we identify with them like, hey, we're both on the same page. Yes, I'm your mother. Yes, I'm older, but I can identify with you. And I wish somebody would have taught me the things that you're learning today. So it's just really in a nutshell, be intentional what you're learning and what you want to start implementing.
So we have a couple of okay, so Ms. Shanta say, I believe many single parents resort to buying their kids because of the guilt and shame and judgment we are subject to under the negative stigmas associated with being a single parent, especially during the age of social media. We don't want to look like we are failing or falling into the stereotypes. No one wants to be under a microscope of judgment. We put so much emphasis on using outward appearances being the litmus test of success. It stunts our ability to sow into our children. Ms. Rhonda also says, more education than buying things. I think it started being more noticeable when we start having kids since we're a little older.
And so I have a response to both of their comments. I understand everything. Was it Shanta?
Mm-hmm.
I understand everything she's saying and I agree with it. And I think, again, when I said earlier, when I asked Crystal about communication, I feel like that plays a big part in it. If you communicate and talk to your kids and let them know certain things, like you don't have to keep up with the Joneses. You know what I'm saying? You can have these things, but these type of things are to be earned. They're not just something that it's not a necessity. As long as you have clothes and nice things on your back, it doesn't have to be a name brand. And I think a lot of families fail from communication. Like I grew up in a household where I didn't really get a lot of communication. And I kind of like, so when it comes to love, I just grew up assuming that's my mom. She loves me. You know what I'm saying? And then I turned and took that into my kids too. I didn't tell them on a regular that I loved them. I just assumed because I was their mom and I was doing this and that for them. You know what I'm saying? So I think communication plays a big part in it. And yes, and that's what I was going to say to Rhonda's comment is that when you get older, yes, we do start noticing things. And I think about a lot of things as I'm learning different things. Now I'm like, wow, if I would have did this when I was raising my kids, and sometimes I feel bad, but then it's like, you know, I did my best. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I just wanted to say.
But the silver lining is once we start learning those things, we have like a wealth of experience that goes with it, right? We have like a whole lot of experience to say, I know why now that makes sense. When you initially learn it, it may not always make sense, but now we learn, like we did things differently and we're learning things differently. Like I understand what you're saying, like, but sometimes, you like, dang, I wish I did this, did that. And like I always say when these young people, they're like, I wish I did this in my 20s and 30s. I'm like, me too. But then I look around, I'm like, but I wouldn't have the wisdom I have to really do it,
if you don't get to learn from your mistakes.
Exactly. If I don't get to learn from my mistakes. So sometimes, everybody's life path is so different. So like, I feel like I feel really good about like, okay, now not only do I put this new knowledge to something because I've never heard it before, but no, it's not that I never heard it before. It's that now I have this life experience. I can add that to this, to that, to this. It's like, I'm not learning this without never having a job and never having money. I'm not having this without ever owning an apartment, having an apartment or something like this. I think having that wisdom behind when you start learning new different things, it just gives you a different level of one appreciation that, and you gotta be honest, like I survived through that without knowing it. Like I got all the way here without knowing certain things. I haven't been doing that bad, but now I know this. I'm like, okay, so I can add that to my knowledge, and I think that as us moms, I mean, we have to make sure that we give ourselves grace too when it's tough being a mom in these streets. I mean, whatever motherhood is a real hood. I don't care what nobody.
It don't come with a book.
It doesn't come with a book. It doesn't come with it doesn't come with a stop sign. It's like as soon as guidelines, as soon as it's like go time. Like as soon as it's like go time, no matter who's there, who's around you, in your mind, that innate thing is just like, had the baby, it's go time. And whatever go time is for you, it's like you don't really have time to slow down and think about a lot of stuff. You just want to make sure I need to protect this baby and do whatever the baby needs for me to do for the most part.
So listen, the way this world is though, y'all, for real. I wish well, how I'm trying to say this. Okay, like now my son, he finna be in high school next year. And I done got this kid mentality where he has to be fresh. He got to dress fresh. He got to look good, smell good. You know what I'm saying? I got this mentality of him, but also get your education, son. But when I think about these high schools and the other kids out here, I'm ready to take my son to the thrift store to pay. I'm just being real with you because see now you can't. It's like you got to take it away from them. Do y'all get what I'm trying to say? I don't even know if I know what I'm trying to say. I
When
think
you
I'm.
say
I do.
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
We
Like
say take
you
it
don't
away.
want you to ignore them. It's a gift to them. It's a
Yeah.
gift.
But
Yeah.
but also too, you can still give your kids name brand, but you don't have to feel like you have to spend the big dollars. I mean, there's places like Plato's Closet. You know what I'm saying? There's places that you can buy the same thing, but spend less money. So they can still have it, but on a budget. You
Mhm.
And
get what I'm
you know what?
saying?
I want to speak to that too. Like, you could get like my oldest son was more so into hood gear or whatever you want to call it. But when I started getting him involved in, like at first I wasn't explaining, hey, this is what it costs. Like my daughter has a cell phone and it's it's an iPhone and it's the latest iPhone. And it's like, let me show you how much this actually costs. What does it take for me to pay for this? What does it take for me to buy these shoes? So like my oldest son, he wears a size 15. So I'm like, well, if I buy you a pair of Jordans, she's shaking her head. This is what these shoes cost. So if you want to go get a job and you can buy your own shoes. And so when I started getting them involved with the how much this cost process of things, hey, you want to go out there and get a job? That's fine. Oh, somebody's son is a 14. You want to get involved? Okay, no problem. You can wear those shoes. But Sis said, she said, you can go to Plato's Closet and it's mix up. Like, this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I can do. But this is, I don't want you to go out there to sell drugs, to get those type of shoes or those type of clothes. And so when we start changing the mentality, what are you focusing on? What's in our environment? Even when we stayed, my son grew up in Long Beach, and he was in LA, and people again was more focused on that. But I'm like, look, when we drive down the street, we see people sleeping outside. We see people on a corner. Hey, people that's focused on materialistic, this is how they live. But they can't. But most of the people, and really, I started instilling them. Look, most people that's wearing those clothes, they cannot afford them. Most of those people that's wearing the clothes, they didn't pay their bills. I literally know people now as an adult. I have one friend I've been knowing for a very long time, don't pay bills. So every time, a holiday roll around, I'm like, well, she's like, I can't pay my bill. I'm like, wow, you just got your hair done. I want to get my hair done, but I got to put back into my business. I want to get my hair done, but it's, I got to pay for, what I'm saying? Some books. I homeschool. That's a whole nother thing. My youngest son will probably never, unless I take him back to the public school, he will never have to deal with peer pressure. Number one, where we live. Number two, I homeschool him, so he's not going to be socialized in a school setting environment. Again, out here, they wear Vans, their clothes look plain, whatever. It might be expensive clothes, but it doesn't really have a name on or attached to it because they're focusing on something different. So anyway, it's in a nutshell, it's really unlearning. We're unlearning. And like Miss Sneed said, hey, I didn't have all those things growing up. When I was a kid, I didn't have clothes like other kids had. I had to learn when I was in 7th grade, I started getting jobs to make sure I looked good, to fit in with Chicago. in the way it was. And you could never catch up, because these kids, as a 7-year-old son, he's growing. So I just bought him a pair of Vans. Guess what? He's not going to have them long, but somebody else's kid is going to be getting those shoes, and they're going to be very happy because they're going to look new because he's growing, So all I can say is, as we learn new concepts of life and change our mentality, that's where the wealth increase and transfer is going to take place.
Mrs. Sneak, I know that, like having a young man, and they like to look dapper. That's for sure. Like our young men like to look, I don't know another word, but I had challenged my son to see what he was really interested in. Like, what are you interested in? What are you really interested in? He picked up photography, and once he picked up photography, he plays sports as well. But so when he's not playing a sport, he's doing photography for a sport, and so all his friends were like, "Oh yeah!" So they start paying him for it. He wears a size 14 shoe. So if you want something, work ethic too. And I know, Mrs. Sneed, it sounds like y'all really teaching him that, but I know for these young men, it was like a different levels of what we need to kind of instill in them, because he might not like everything what everybody else loves, but he still loves clothes. I mean, he still loves. He's 14 and he's 6'3". So even if I want,
somebody has something that needs to be muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. So even when he's 6'3" and size 14. So even if I wanted to buy him something from somewhere else, it would still cost $150,
exactly,
whatever, just because. And so just kind of balancing, like, what would you like to do, son? And once he picked up photography, and it may not be photography for young men, it may be something like, I like to play video games, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying, to earn a little bit of like work ethic, whatever. Like, and if you want this, I'll match you, but until you get this part, then I can't match you, son.
Yeah, that's what I'm teaching my son, because he's 14, wears size 14.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
But what I love about my son, though, what I love about my kids, y'all, and this might sound kind of crazy to y'all, but it ain't the kids, it's me. I make them put that stuff on. I make them look like that. They don't want to look like that. They be like, I don't want that stuff on. Let me just put, you should see how these kids dress, and they be so comfortable and ready to go. I be like, I'm not. Y'all got to take that stuff off because we going somewhere. But I just thank God that my kids is not.
And you know what? I understand them, because you know what? I'm like that. I don't like to be all dressed up just to go out somewhere. I like to put on some sweats and a nice t-shirt, or have some basketball shorts and just go. That's, to me, I still got clothes and shoes in my closet that I didn't have for years, that I still fit, I still could wear. And it does not look bad on me because I still can fit it. Some people might look and be like, Daddy, why you still got that? Hey, it lasts me for some years. I know how to hold on to my stuff. I know how to keep it in one shape and keep it in one piece. And I sure know how to make sure it stays to where I can fit it. Right. So I do understand. When it comes to clothes, shoe, I probably barely buy me a name brand shoe. My thing is Chucks and Vans. I'm a Chucks and Vans type of girl, because Chucks and Vans is a budget shoe. And, I'm flat-footed, really, and those are the shoes that's most comfortable for my flat-footed feet.
But also, yeah, I'm with you. That's me. I'm just, the only reason why I have this on is because today we're here all together. But like, even with that though, just making sure, like, I was like that too, like, because you growing up, like going different places, like the way our, like, other families, like, you have to, like, you need to be presentable, right? So presentable to me may be different from presentable from my 16-year-old son, because I don't know why these kids like to wear a hoodie in 90-degree weather. I'm like, it is 96 degrees outside. Why do you have on a hoodie? But that's just their thing. And I think, like, now as we mature, I kind of let them kind of go into like what's comfortable for them, because I want him to match. I want him to do certain things. I want him to, like, when he goes to this, why can't you just wear a collar shirt? He's like, I want to wear a collar shirt. I'm like, but not that type of collar shirt. I want you to wear like, he's like, and allowing these kids the freedom to be kids has been so freeing, like, in these days, because just allowing them to it was just so freeing not to have that argument with him. And he dresses nice. I'm like, there's really nothing wrong. It's me. It's me wanting you to have a certain type of collar shirt, a certain type of, like, you know, he goes to Express, and it's some little jogger dress pants. I'm like, I have no idea why would they mix the two, but that's what he likes. And then he has a little shirt and some Vans on. He looks really nice, but you know, I'm like, why don't you don't want to wear no different type of dress shoes or nothing? He's like, no, you know. But that goes back to also giving them the freedom, because now he has that freedom after I release certain things. After I think just going back to like, it's crazy because we were talking about not having a father in the home, and like having my dad in the home, like he didn't have a sense of anything. So his inconsistency made me not want to have that I was like, my son can't be inconsistent. So when I saw that in him, I was like, I need you to tighten it up, you know. So having that kind of made me kind of look at him like, no, I need you to be this way, and this way, and this way. And really, like, I was doing okay as a parent. Like, you can't, me, not you, Mrs. Sneed. I realized that I couldn't put that deficit on him because of the inconsistency I felt from not having my father physically in the home, but inconsistent everywhere else. And so it's crazy how it came back to that. I was just thinking, I was like, you know, that he never was consistent with nothing. So that's why I wanted my son to be so consistent. I'm like, I need you to do this, do that, be here, be there, do this, do that. So I guess I love when you guys said that it really didn't have no effect on you, but I really feel like for me and how I did with my kids, it really had a big effect on how I even parented him as a young man. You know, you can't be as inconsistent as the men that I've seen in my family, specifically my dad.
Well, I'm gonna take mine back because I am kind of what I miss with my father, because I thought I did miss nothing, but what affected me is I didn't get that chance for my father to teach me how to raise my young mans. So I'm raising my young mans on my own with the help of their father. So I raised my daughter. Those are my boys, but I don't know how to raise. I know how to take care of my children, but I don't know how to raise that man into a man. So I'm blessed to have my husband here to help me raise these young men into the men that they need to become, because I didn't get that from my father, and I wish my father would still be here, you know, and to able to sit me down and teach, you know, to talk to me about how to raise young men. Now that I miss with my father, I didn't get that from nobody. So I'm raising these boys on my own with their dad's help and the help of God. So that's what I miss from my dad growing, as you know. And I'm not a single woman, but still, I still miss him. I missed it. You know, you don't have to be single, you know, but that's what I miss. You know, that's yeah. So I be.
So we have comments from Miss Rhonda. She say motherhood is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is an all-time true story. Miss Stacy says, in this day and age, name brand clothes is not all that important, but to some kids they are. My 10-year-old son doesn't care about somebody's name on clothes, but once your kids start getting older, you teach them the value of money by getting a job. And she also said, however, there's nothing wrong with name brand because you can buy name responsible prices, name brand at responsible prices, which is true. I like to shop for Ross and Burlington's, y'all.
What I was saying earlier. And you know what? I hate that they took layaway away, because when I was raising my kids, that helped me out a lot. I did probably 3 layaways a year, and it was the summer, it was the school clothes, and then it was the Christmas. Had it not been for layaway, a majority of the time, I don't even know how I would have made things work. But now they didn't take it away till my kids was grown. So I'm just like, wow, when I look at some of these parents, it's like, dang, why did they take layaway away? You know?
Well, here they still do layaway. I
Oh,
think
in Minnesota, they
I think they do.
the way I used to do TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Burlington. It's gone.
And I think that like now a lot of things that we had for our children a while ago, they don't have it. But I also think it's systemic. It's systemic, not putting things in place, to kind of help people out, or systemic place to keep people in the same thing. So it's so crazy because it all goes back to the dynamic and how we were raised and our insecurities and what we want to do. It all plays a big part in they we know who they are. They know what we, that we automatically come into this world feeling like sometimes you're a deficit, and then you always feel like you have to catch up. So when you have your kids, and then say if you don't have that male dynamic initially, you feel like you have to overcompensate for that sometimes as well, and then don't go back to before us when we had our grandmas and great grandmas who not only did they have to overcompensate, but they didn't have anybody they could talk to or things like that. And I'm not sure about you guys' family, but I come from a whole heaping male influences who were doing a lot of stuff that we wouldn't accept nowadays, so that definitely had played a big part in how we just kind of operate as a like my mom's side of the family. They're not even from here, and it's crazy because it doesn't even matter, because it's like it's in the water wherever you drink it from, like wherever you drink. So not having those males, and then not to get off a topic, but then you have not having those males like that, it turns some of us women into women that we don't want to be. Like we don't want to be those strong, aggressive, overreacting. But like, what do you do when you're the only person who is providing and doing all these different things? We don't have those men in the household. If you didn't grow up with a male in the household who showed you that compassion, that gentleness that comes from a man, so we automatically go to, I ain't gonna let nobody not only do nothing to me, but do nothing for me. I'm gonna get this by myself. It's different ways to hustle, and I'm gonna find all the different ways to hustle, and it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get it the way I need to get it. And then we become desensitized to what, I don't know about you guys, not me. I'm gonna stop saying we, me. Became desensitized to what like compassionate men really look like, because then you start looking at them like they soft sometimes. Like, so you don't hustle? So what do you do? Like, if you don't hustle, then what do you really do? You know what I mean? If you're not doing that. And so it kind of desensitizes and demasculates some of the men of our community too, to make them feel like they have to be a certain type of man too, because we're so strong. I mean, which is great because we have to be, but then our strong, like something, we really, really strong. So it really takes really strong, healthy men to really, really deal with us in a compassionate way, because we deal with our own traumas from not having certain men around. It may not always be like really bad. It may not always be like something where you see on a movie, but definitely has some different types of effect on how we definitely communicate with people of the opposite sex, for sure, for me.
Odessa had her hand up.
Yeah.
All right, Odessa. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I don't know really how everything is. This is my first time on here. I'm enjoying myself. But no, I just wanted to kind of speak to one of the people that made the comments, or one of the comment persons. But when it comes to hindsight 2020, we're just learning. All of us is just learning at different stages. I don't speak from a standpoint of a woman that has had a lot of positive male figures around to pull any type of gauge anything from. Most of the men were materialistic, as far as like clothes. What shaped them was the type of clothes and the brand names that they had. And so personally, I never was a person, after becoming an adult and having children, I wasn't going to work hard in order to get those things, because I did a lot of things that were not legal, or just things that compromised who I was as a person to get material stuff. But on the other hand, the flip side of it is there is a positive side to material things or expensive clothes. And if you go to a cheap store, so the positive thing is you're going to get quality clothes. So you get leather shoes, and it's like teaching them like, hey, you want a nice leather purse, you want nice leather shoes, certain things is going to last long, especially once they're past the growing stage where they're growing. Really don't focus on the money. You know, like somebody's like, well, buy him a pair of Jordans. Why would I'm gonna buy him a pair of Vans? You know, like what I just see Jade with Data. I'm sorry, your name. But like you were saying, we buy the same type of stuff, the Vans and all that. Data, thank you. And because he's gonna grow. But for the most part, like my daughter, you know, I was telling her the other day, get quality stuff, get you a leather jacket. So the positive side of buying materialistic or expensive clothes is the quality. It's not gonna, you know, mess up on you soon as the first time you wash it. The color is gonna go out. But you don't want to spend your life just constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses. Keeping up with other people are doing and trying to define yourself. People already have made a decision about you, no matter if you have on the best clothes or not. People are going to judge you. But unfortunately, living out here in California is not just about the clothes on the outer appearance, it's about your size. You know, that's a whole nother topic. I think you need to do a show about being plus size if you ever deal with that. You know, I had to, and I don't want to deviate from what we're doing, but I just want to speak to that really quick. I really I don't like to put a lot of money into clothes because when you buy plus size clothes, they're expensive. You're going to pay for the extra material, you know, but again, some things I do spend extra money for because I want it to last. And unless once this weight will come off, this weight is going to come off. And so I'm not going to put too much money as I'm going through my process into clothes, but you do want to have those quality clothes for certain types of events that you're going to, a job interview, any of those type of things. So that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah, social media. Speaking on social media, it keeps going back to communication and talking to your kids and letting them know they don't have to keep up with the Joneses. Like Odessa said earlier, a lot of these people that's posting this stuff on social media, they ain't pay their rent. They're not putting their priorities before these things that they're going out and spending money on. Also, talking to these younger parents, I'm gonna say younger parents, and letting them know that it's okay to buy your kids name brand, but that's not the big important thing. That doesn't show that you love your child. It's just, you know what I mean, to post that on Facebook like you're the mom of the year or the dad of the year, that's not the importance of being a parent, is basically what I'm trying to say. So it keeps going back to communication for me.
Correct. I like that. So we have a couple of comments from Miss Kamisha. She said, growing up without a father is a challenge. However, so many men are broken and raised in broken homes. And because they are broken, oftentimes they don't know how to have a relationship because they never witnessed it themselves. Miss Chrissy said, Crystal Wilson, great connection between how you thought you had to recognize red flags from your father and prevent those issues from becoming a part of your son's character or habits. Trauma surfaces in many ways that we don't always know are trauma responses. I like that. Miss Stacy said, my dad wasn't in my life, just here and there in my childhood, but just before he passed in 2016, he was more in my life because I took care of him until he passed. There were times when I wished he was there, but looking back, it probably was for the best that he wasn't in my life. Miss Shanta says, as a young girl, I never knew my father. I was raised and taught that I didn't need a man for anything. It planted a bitter seed in my heart that I am working to heal from now.
Well, I hope she healed from it.
Yeah, it can hurt them in the long run later on down the line because it makes it hard for them to either love a man or they're looking for that father figure in the man.
Yeah.
I hope she don't do one.
And going back to what Crystal was saying about when you do things on your own. Like, I kind of felt what she was saying, because sometimes I have to fall back and catch my attitude, because I have this attitude like, I don't want a man to do anything for me. I'll do it for myself. I don't. What's your catch? What are you gonna try to control me? So yeah, I do have to catch me, and it's not even just with a man. It's with people. Period. I don't want. I don't want. I'll do it myself. I feel like if I can't get it myself, I don't need it. Maybe sometimes I might need to fall back, but it also comes with trust too.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that if we haven't had like a stable community to begin from, that's like rooted in trust, then you just learn survival. You just learn how to get it. You learn, regardless of whatever. Like the very first people that we're supposed to trust is like our parents. Those are the people who, from like 0 to 6 months, 0 to like a year, you like, okay, well, these are the people I'm supposed to, like, it's innate that you're supposed to trust. And then if that trust isn't necessarily broken, but like you don't develop that, it's hard to have that for anybody. It's hard to, friends, anybody. You just go around like, I know you have ulterior motive for me. Person could be very genuine, but like if you always had to get it and always live in a survival mode, I think sometimes we can be in that space where I know at some point you're going to disappoint me. So before you disappoint me, I'm going to make sure I can do what I need to do. But also in our culture, like, just not having that community, it's hurting us. It's hurting us not having that trustworthy community where you feel like you can depend on so and so to do this, because things are so crazy right now in the world. Like, it's like, you don't want to trust people with your children. You don't want to trust people with your money. You don't want to trust people with your man. You don't want to trust people with your woman. Whatever your preference is, you just don't want to do it. It's because it's an innate thing that was built from the beginning for us not to trust our communities. And it looks like we're building that back up, but it's going to take a little while. Like the community is so big, and that's one thing that we're kind of missing. We're like silos. Like, okay, you're doing what you need to do over here. You're doing what you need over here. I will support you, but I won't trust you with my stuff. Like we often work. One of my very best friends, she said that we always try to work this way because it seems like everybody else is at the top. We should be going there instead of working like this. And it was so, and from then on out, when she said it, I was like, that's so true. Like we never go across the board to be like, we have all these different resources and things, but it comes from initially not being able to trust those people that from the beginning, mother and father. Like, we have, some people have majority father issues, but then those mother issues ain't no joke either. And sometimes it stems from the father issues. Those mother issues, baby.
And I think a lot of times with the mommy issues, I think it plays a big part on son. And then, like someone said earlier, they take this into their relationship. I'm going to let Odessa speak, but then I will be very interested in hearing from Montoya.
You know what? You want to go to Montoya first and then come back to me?
Sure.
I want to hear from her too.
3.
Okay, yeah, I was just waiting to dive in. So a few things that stuck out to me. I was just thinking about how my household is set up. I'm a single mom, and then I'm a boy mom. I have one daughter. She's 24, and then I have an older son who is 27, but he's outside the home. My daughter is outside the home too, and then I have 13, 11, and 4. And so I have, the way that I teach them about assets and investing is I've opened up bank accounts for them. And then for my son, I allow him to see like the expense of having, the Jordans and different things like that. And so in his mind is now embedded like, okay, if I want these things, then I need to work for it. So, he works for my dad, he goes and cut the grass and different things like that. And so he puts in on, the things that he wants that are kind of, on the expensive end. And then also, I'm training him as well to have some type of hustle, some type of interest, hobbies that he can turn into, to make money, which then can lead to entrepreneurship. And so I think that it's important that, especially in the era that we're in, that we're teaching our children how to invest, number one, and how to turn their hobbies and the things that they enjoy doing into entrepreneurship. So as you guys were having the discussions, that's one of the things that came up for me. Another thing that stuck out for me is that I was thinking about how, you know, the relationship with my dad wasn't there when I was growing up. So I feel like it caused me to have to fend for myself out here. And I've heard that from the panel as well. But I feel like I have to learn as I go. You know, it's kind of like I'm winging it. You know, I was a teen mom. I had my first child when I was 16. And even then, it was just like, no, 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 no. Like everything was forbidden, you know, and I didn't get the teachings that I needed to help me to grow. So when I went off to college and I had my son with me, I winged it. You know, everything I learned was on my own. And so that embedded in me that sense of independence. You know, I don't, you know, I know it's my way and no other way. And so I think that that's a positive attribute, but at the same time, it can be kind of taxing because it kind of it weighs on help on relationships. So, and you know, I've had failed relationships because of that sense of independence and feeling like I don't need a man to help me or try to tell me anything. I got this, you know. So, but now that I'm older, I'm 46 years old, I realize that's the wrong way to go about it, you know. So I had to slow down in that lane. And now I appreciate what the man in the household has to offer. So that's my take on everything.
Okay, Odessa.
You know, I'm glad that you went first, and because just what Crystal said, and it connects to what you said, Montoya.
Me and you both gonna get her name right, Odessa.
Okay,
Don't worry.
Think of Montana.
For sure.
Okay,
Think of
Toya,
Montana
okay.
and put it with Montoya.
Man, generational trauma. That's one area that now, I've been single for 7 years, you know, and I deal with a whole bunch of trauma from men. And so now for me, it's choosing a man, right? Choosing a man based on where I'm at as a person today. I couldn't choose a man a year ago or even 6 months ago. If I choose a person, I need to understand what you know, what's your thought process as far as money? What's your thought process as far as materialistic things? How do you spend your money? Where's your credit? All of these things. And I'm a very independent woman. So it's hard to look to a man for emotional support, for financial support. Now, financial support wouldn't be too much of a problem, but unless he wants to be controlling. But the thing is that the guards are up because I've been doing this for a long time. I've learned to live accustomed to being alone, but I do have questions. And so it's like when we meet as single mothers or single women, whatever, when you meet a person, it's asking the right questions. It's looking for the red flags. The healthy, really understanding and basing, hey, how healthy am I to even want to be in a relationship, to even want to connect with someone? If I'm not in a healthy state, I'm not even in the right place to ask the right questions. I can't ask a guy, what's your plan in the next 5 years? What do you want to do? Because I can get married right now, but he might not be a good fit in a sense that he doesn't have goals. Maybe he have a regular job, but he doesn't have goals. The job that he has is dead end. You know, so a lot of women, I've witnessed over the years, a lot of women, they're in relationships with men. And I don't say this from a judgmental standpoint, but from an observational standpoint and experience, that they're still struggling. So they have a second person around, but they're still struggling financially. They don't feel like they have a support system. They don't feel like that they have someone to lean on. This person, and we talked about communication, they keep coming up. You can't really talk to the guy. Where is he at in his level of development? You know, can you have a conversation with him? His intellect is on a level that we can grow together. And I'll give you a quick example. A guy, he was telling me that, you know, his rent is a affordable amount. And now we're just friends, somebody I know through mutual people, trust me. But he said that he was just satisfied with his rent being a certain way because of Section 8. He doesn't want to try to get another job, right? And I see some nods, but he doesn't want, he's just happy, like, hey, I'm living the life. And I'm like, wow. And he, he called himself interested in me. And it's like, there's no way that I could connect with this guy because we're not on the same plane. But if I was thinking with, oh, I just want to be in a relationship, I can get this guy to change, I can maybe bring him up to my level as far as how I see money, that is where we get tricked up. Even though I've been single for 7 years, I don't want to go down that road getting a man because I want, someone around to take bags up the stairs. Sometimes I get tired of taking bags up the stairs. But if that guy's not on the same level, taking out here in California, you cannot drink the water out the sink. And I'd be like, oh God, I'm so tired of taking all of these bottled waters upstairs. But I'd rather go through this process than to get with someone because I don't want to take bags up the stairs anymore. Right. And I'm talking from a standpoint of a lot of women compromise because they're tired. But the trauma thing makes us make the wrong decisions. And lastly, the trauma also causes people to shop and buy things. So going back to the clothes and the expensive clothes, emotional shopping. So it's dealing with the trauma to get us to the next level in our community.
So Montoya had her hand up, and then Crystal, and then Data, I'll let you get to the comments.
So everything that Odessa just said goes directly back to the question of the father not being in the home. Because had we had, well, I'm going to speak for myself because I don't know Odessa's situation, I think she said. So my thing is, had I had that role, that father role, despite he was there, okay, but had I had that relationship, that father-daughter relationship, I know for a fact that it would not have taken me 40 some odd years to realize that everything, my frame of thought concerning men was wrong. Yeah. But my choices that I was making, the choices that I was making with men was wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really, this is an awesome topic because it allows us to do those reflections, to have those reflections that we need, that those healthy ideas that we need to have go through our minds so that we can make those checks and balances. Where am I at in my life now? Looking back, okay, what happened? What was the family dynamic? How is it affecting me now? How is it affecting me as a parent? How will it affect my grandchildren? How will it affect the generations to come? You know what I'm saying? So this is dynamic, being able to have those reflections on what happened with the family role, the mother role, the father role. And it's sad to say, but it hurts, that I missed out. You know what I'm saying? I missed out. And so now I have to deal with that. My children have to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? And so it is.
And I know you want to speak next, but I think that when there is a father absent from their home, that it would help that if the other men in the family, brothers and uncles, would also step up. I never saw that in my family growing up either. Now, I do have an uncle that I communicate with now from time to time, but I wish it could have been more growing up, as a young woman, and, maybe getting some teaching on, just men in general. And yeah. So I'll let you have it, Crystal.
No, I just totally agree. I was actually about to say very much of what you were saying, like generational trauma, even with ourselves as women, like we can't, I think you said it in the comments, someone said about the broken men, like, for a long time, they weren't allowed to kind of address their feelings and their emotions and things like that. So you have that in addition to how they treated the wives or whatever the case may be, because their own trauma and they couldn't actually deal with it, where women are we have that sixth sense, like, oh, it's something wrong. So we have the desire to heal, right? We have the desire to want to have that connection, where sometimes with men, they don't want to deal with it because it's hurtful. And they've been taught that if you deal with your feelings, then you kind of solve. So any type of feeling, especially trauma, hurts. Like trauma isn't something like, oh yes, I have trauma. Let's just deal with it. It's like trauma affects your nervous system. You know what I mean? Like trauma relives itself over and over again from generations beyond our mother, like our grandparents. Like we're not, I don't like to say we're from slaves, but we definitely had different levels of slavery in our, past, where that trauma kind of goes, it's in our veins, it's in our blood. So if you have that just passed down from so many different things, like our men have been broken for a very long time. And so broken men can't really lead households, and that's not an excuse. It's just like, it is what it is. And then healed women can't attract healed men, as a woman, like we have to really look what healing looks like. And healing isn't perfection. Healing is, I recognize there's something going on. Yes, for sure. I recognize there's something that's going on, and then realizing not only like what do I accept, but what I don't accept. Like trauma has a really big effect on, I'm just not going to take that. I'm not, because prime example, I'm married. My husband is wonderful. He's a great guy. I'm a lot to deal with. Thank God for him. But when we first got married, like I thought that him wanting to know where I was controlling, because I come from a household where if my dad asked he really wanted control. My husband just really wants to know if I'm okay. And so for a long time, I was like, you don't even know where I'm at. I ain't doing nothing. You don't gotta know where I'm at. You don't even know why you need to know where I went to lunch at. One time my husband was like, because I wanted to come and have lunch with you. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. But I didn't see it as that at first, because a trauma response will have you doing that. A trauma response will have you, especially if you're not with a man who recognizes, oh, you may have some trauma. He could have been like, well, I won't buy you lunch then, or I won't care about where you go. But instead, the response was like making sure that you're healed enough to accept the grace and, accept that people, that if you do have trauma that is healing, you can heal from trauma. I think that sometimes it seems like it's so overwhelming. It's too much that we feel like that I'm just such a broken person. I think, Odessa, you were saying something about just some things you did, like survival mode and things like that. I think that when we relive that over and over again, our nervous system, like our minds will make us feel like trauma is all we know, but that is not the truth. You know what I mean? Like we were born to be so much more than that. And our resilience and our strength as women shows that. Like I keep saying, the fact that we're still here means that we're healing from something. The fact that we're having this conversation means that we want to be whole in a lot of different ways, and what you said, Montoya, like I think you said you're 46, girl. You said you was 27-year-old. I was like, how's she 27? She only 35, looking 35 in a corner. How you have a 27-year-old? But just even recognizing it at first is daunting. And then just knowing, like recognizing that whenever trauma happens, like your mind really stops developing at that moment. So we really have to reach back to that year, that age. Sometimes I respond like a 16-year-old girl, and sometimes I respond like a 38-year-old woman. It just depends on where I am in that specific trauma, because it's different types of traumas. You could have been molested as a child. You could have just had, triggers for sure. You could have just had different things that happened to you over the years, not just coming from different things. Or you could feel literally what your ancestors felt. You could literally feel like what your mom and your grandma felt, because it's in our nervous system, and people forget that. Like sometimes you're not only healing for yourself, but you're healing for every woman, almost every woman that came before you, and that's a lot to hold. But we have the grace. It's okay.
So I think that it might be safe to say that we as women, if we take the lead, and if we heal ourselves, then maybe we can lead our men better.
I think that if we heal ourselves, we can recognize when they're broken better, and then realize that because I don't know if we can heal men, but I know we can be part of the healing. Part of
by example.
Yes, yep, that's it. Yeah. Like let them know that
they'll recognize that they need healing as well.
That's right. Yep, that's it. I totally agree with that, because I feel like if we try to do that, then we'll kind of enable them by being
Mhm.
the example of someone who's healed. It makes you feel like, oh, every woman who's strong isn't, whatever. So I definitely agree with you in regards to that. Yes, and we need more people like that. Like sometimes we got to be solving this. Sometimes you got to look at your husband and be like, look, I know that this is what you got going on. It may be a trauma for you, but I'm here for you, and we can go through this together as long as you're willing to work on it. Now you can't stay there because I couldn't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
let's work on it. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I don't know, y'all. I'm sorry. I cannot deal with a broken man. I just can't. Like, there is no way.
And you shouldn't.
I can. Huh?
I said you shouldn't. I said you shouldn't.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood what was said. But also I wanted to add that, I had to do an activity with myself to where I had to take myself even back to infant stage when I was a baby and just heal and just love on baby Montoya. I love you. You so pretty. You so beautiful. I had to do that, literally. And it was a process that took days, months, so it was like I had planned it out to where I was going to heal baby Montoya from infant stage to 9 months. For that first day, that was the stage of healing. So I would envision myself being a baby and all of that and just love on Montoya. And then I had to go from 9 months to 18 months and love on Montoya. You know what I'm saying? It was like, because I was so broken, I had to come up with a process on how to heal myself. And somebody put in the chat about the Willie Lynch syndrome. Well, I had put it in there. We put it in there both at the same time. We are broken. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound racially, driven, but we are a broken people all together. You know what I'm saying? And so if we look at the fathers not being in the home, well, the Willie Lynch syndrome, they broke us down on purpose. They put us against each other on purpose, and they resembled it to breaking a horse. So they used an example of a horse, an animal, for us. And so it's just a difficult spot that we're in right now. So
is there any comments?
We have no more comments at the moment, so
Okay.
I don't think it's okay to deal with a broken man.
No, it's not, because again, it goes back to healing. If either one of you aren't healed, it's toxic. It creates a toxic environment. It creates a toxic relationship, and that's not good for anyone. If there isn't any more anything anybody else has to say, it is 7:35. I'm gonna go on and end it, and I would like to thank you all for joining. I love everyone had to say. I thank everybody that's viewing and shared their comments. Appreciate it. You guys all have a good night. Thank you for tuning in to Sip and Talk.
Good night.
Good night, y'all.
blessings.
Nice meeting you, Crystal.